Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury are proud to have Fansets as its presenting sponsor. Stay tuned for a special discount code worth 10% off your order at fansets.com. Fansets. Our pins have character.
This episode is also sponsored by Science Division, the makers of the world's first interactive Tribble. Stay tuned for a discount code to bring a Tribble into your home today. Science Division. Trouble's never been this fun.
Divine Treasury is made of pure latinum.
So I was looking over some pictures sent to us from our guests' collection, and I was staring at it like Admiral Kirk stares at the Enterprise in the motion picture. To say that we barely scratched the surface of her collection is an understatement, but more on our guest and her collection in a little while. My name is Mike Bovia. And my collection, if I were to put it on video, would take all of probably 33 seconds. My co-host, however, might not be 33 minutes, but it might be if he's describing everything in the room. We welcome Jamie Rogers, our collecting expert, I guess you could say.
How's it going, Mike?
Oh, I'm living the dream.
Yep.
Living the dream.
Aren't we all? I'm really excited to see some more of the Monster Maroons coming out though for fan sets. So
yeah,
we've been teased by that Admiral Kirk.
Well, I know there's somebody on this podcast who already has it.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man.
That's the fun of buying early in Las Vegas. And speaking of new merchandise, there's not a whole lot that has been offered, and I was expecting to see a whole lot more, but we really didn't get much.
So the first item that we're going to talk about is a Factory Entertainment, and they are debuting the TNG Type 1 phaser. And obviously this is the one that really gained prominence in, the first couple seasons of TNG. I mean, we did see it throughout some other shows sprinkled here and there, but obviously really came to prominence in that, first season of TNG. It's very nice, very, very sharp looking. However, what I am not in love with is the price tag. I believe it's $275, $274.99. And then they also have a all silver season 1 variant of it for $349.99. So once again, I mean, I do like some of the weapons things. I'm not like Jim Morehouse in this regard, but if I was going to drop that kind of cash for a phaser, it would have to be more like a phaser rifle or a, maybe Type 2 phaser, something from First Contact maybe. But to spend that on the Type 1 phaser, I don't know. It's not really floating my boat right now.
Well, what's interesting is in the picture that's shown is, it looks like Chakotay is holding a Type 2 phaser with just his hand wrapped around the body of it, because the Type 1s that we saw always had the silver end cap, I guess you could say, from the firing port, and that had a black. So I was very confused when I first saw it. But yeah, I've got to agree with you. I mean, hey, you know what? If you're into phasers and you don't have a family to feed like we do, $274.99. Hey, go for it, man. But yeah, I agree with you. If I was going to spend $274.95, I better be able to shoot something with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe if it was a screen used, maybe that's a different story. Alex Perry, I'm talking to you.
Alex would tell you it would take a lot more than $274.95.
No, I'm just saying, I'd probably, but I bet you the screen use wouldn't even look that good anymore. Probably, look at the stuff you're seeing on Blu-ray now, like the TNG Blu-ray stuff. It's like, boy, some of the paint doesn't look very good anymore. But yeah, no, this is, it's a nice piece, and I'm sure the quality is very good resin, but that price tag just not doing it for me for sure.
Yeah. Well, the next thing was something huge that was brought up on Star Trek Day. And there were so many tweets about this, people going crazy just about how awesome it was. And I can never remember, or never mind, can't remember. I never know how this company goes by, whether it's GOG or if it's just GOG. But they're a digital game distributor. And for Star Trek Day, they released a number of Star Trek games that you could download and be able to play on current Windows systems. 8 games in all, at a very, very reasonable price tag of $9.99 per download. Games such as Elite Force, Elite Force 2, Away Team, Armada, Bridge Commander, Starfleet Command 3, Hidden Evil, and Armada 2. I mean, the amount of tweets that I saw with people being so excited that they could go back to the games that they played in the late 90s and early 2000s. It was really cool. It was like people hearkening back to their youth.
Yeah, this was interesting because I remember you talking to me about this. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but it's that era of games, that late 90s, early 2000s. For me, it was kind of when I had gotten away from Star Trek a little bit. I was in my last couple of years of high school, and I was starting to kind of get into other things, and my fandom had kind of waned at that point in Star Trek. I had lost interest in like things like Enterprise and stuff like that. So there are some of these games that I have played. I believe I've played Elite Force. I didn't even know Hidden Evil even existed, or Bridge Commander. But I do remember playing Star Trek Armada, and I really loved those games. They were very, very good. But like my Star Trek games that really, for my heart, are the ones kind of near the 25th anniversary time period. Those are the ones that really, harken me back to my childhood. Those are the ones that I had and downloaded and played. This crop of games doesn't really hold much of a sentimental value for me, but definitely may check some of them out since they're, relatively cheap to download.
I got to say, I'm in the same boat as you. I have absolutely heard of these games. I've watched some of the playthroughs on YouTube from people that have had systems set up to be able to accommodate these games for years. But I am not sure that I played any of these games, to be quite honest with you. So I'll definitely be at least checking out a couple of them to see what's up. I got to imagine that there's going to be something out there to suit my fancy. And what was that one evil?
The Hidden Evil. Yeah,
Hidden Evil.
I was going to mention that. That one's kind of like perks my interest. A third-person adventure game with both Patrick Stewart and Brent Spiner reprising their roles as Captain Picard and Leonard. Like I said, I never even heard of that game. So I don't know how popular it was, but it definitely looks like I bet you if I had known you back in, that time period, we would have been playing Star Trek Armada all the time, because my brother and my brother's brother-in-law used to play Armada constantly.
Really?
Yeah. And like I said, that I bet you if we had known each other, we probably would have been, on our dial-up modems, playing network games with that
Oh boy.
Crappy America Online sound.
I was going to say absurdly slow speeds. And finally, the last thing, and we will get into this more in our ad for Science Division, but Science Division put out some new tribbles. It's all the same operations of the tribbles that we've had before, except we have a new silver version. So some new experimentation with the tribble fur, and hearkening back to more tribbles, more troubles from the animated series, a larger than life tribble that was put out in a limited quantity of 300 for Star Trek Day. So those are still available on the Science Division site. So if you are interested in having your own far larger tribble, you should check out Science Division while you can. So that brings us to the new additions to our collection. I know I have a very small one, so I'm just going to lead off this week and say the only things that I really added to mine was I got a few more Discovery cards that I did not have for the Signature Series. I believe that brings me down to, I think, 4 or 5 from the standard set that I need to get now. And I also picked up one more of the scarce bordered Picard autograph cards, which I got for the very reasonable price of $4.50, when I believe it's a $75 card. So I think I struck gold there.
Yeah, you did.
And the only other thing was Jamie and I were privileged enough to receive an advance copy of Dayton Ward's latest book, Moments Asunder, the first book in the Star Trek Coda trilogy. And we will get further in depth on that on a future episode of Level 3 Diagnostic, as we will review that book. But without spoiling any details, you want to read this book.
Yeah, no, agreed. I have started it. I'm not as obviously I know you finished it, but I from what I've read so far, it's very, very good. So didn't you also go? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe you are at the point now where you could get it off of Audible and be able to listen to it, because I believe it was released yesterday.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That's probably what I'm going to do for sure. Because that's just a lot easier for me when I'm driving and doing whatever. Didn't you also go to New Jersey too? We didn't.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't talk about that, but I mean, there was very little. I will say this. What Creation lacked for Vendor's Room in New Jersey, they made up for with Star Power. They did have stars from other series there. They had 2 stars from the Orville, including Penny Johnson Gerald. They had a couple from Arrow. They had a couple from The Expanse. They had
Emily Swallow.
Right? I was going to say Emily Swallow, the armorer from The Mandalorian, was there. But then their Star Trek lineup was very good, led at the top by William Shatner and Sonequa Martin Green. But then throughout, they had Michelle Hurd and Issa Briones and Evan Evagora from Picard. They had Noah Averbach-Katz and Mary Chieffo and Mary Wiseman and Wilson Cruz and Anthony Rapp, all from Discovery. They also had Nana Visitor and Terry Farrell from Deep Space Nine. And last but not least, they had Connor Trenier and Jeffrey Combs who most recently is from Star Trek Lower Decks. They had those two on there representing Enterprise. So, I mean, they had quite a few people there. I think I told you, and I mentioned to a few other people, there were maybe 4 to 5 vendors there, and there was almost as many food vendors as there were merchandise vendors. But the star power and the panels were very good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, so I'm going to talk about some of the things I received, and I'm going to start off with obviously something nice that you did for me. You got me a Michelle Hurd autograph, which kind of created a new conundrum for me on my wall. But, Kelsey Grammer's going to get his own place somewhere in the man cave so that Michelle Hurd can take her place next to the other Picard things. But obviously, very appreciative that you did that. Obviously I was disappointed that Michelle Hurd kind of canceled at the last minute of Las Vegas. So it was nice to get her autograph. You also got me an All Good Things pin, which is nice. I believe it was the 10th anniversary for All Good Things. You had mentioned the Dayton Ward book. So obviously what a privilege it was to get that book early. I wish I had the time to read it as fast as you did. But I will be finishing that up very shortly. But very excited.
I must say I shouldn't have read it as fast as I did because it took away from many things that I should have been doing instead. But I get like that sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you get a good book or you get wrapped up in something. I really, as got really wrapped up in the Secrets of the Force book, by our buddy Mark Altman and Edward Gross. So that was kind of occupying my time, when that book came in. So, but I look forward to, like I said, finishing up that book. A couple other interesting items that I got. I was able to get the Star Trek TNG, the Continuing Mission book. It was a 10th anniversary book by Judith and Garfield Reed Stevens. Basically kind of does like an episode by episode recap. But what I like about this book, to me, it's more like a coffee table type book. It contains that the cover is that my favorite black and white picture of the Next Generation cast. It's my centerpiece. If anybody has seen my Star Trek wall, I have a cast photo, basically them in civilian attire without makeup on. It's a black and white photo where their faces are kind of half shaded. My favorite piece, and obviously I had all 7 of them autograph it, at various conventions. So I love the book for that cover. But the other book that I got that was really interesting, and I actually bought it directly from her, was Susan Sackett's book, Inside Star Trek. Basically her, actually it's called Star Trek Inside Trek is what it's called. So it really touches on her relationship with Gene Roddenberry, which, was romantic at different times as well. But what was cool is I bought it directly from her, and she actually did autograph it for me as well, which was really kind of cool. So excited about that. A couple other things I gotten. I did get my CP10 Dodge Asha card. However, I'm a little frustrated because there's a little issue with the card in one of the corners that's kind of bugging me a little bit.
Ooh, so that's not good.
Yeah, we may have to replace that one. I should have done my homework and looked at the description and the pictures a little closer. But I didn't. I thought I was getting a really good deal. And, there was a reason why I got a good deal, was because it had this defect. So we'll see how that works. And, I may end up reaching out to Steve at Rittenhouse and seeing what we can do to fix that. But that's what happened. I know on our last episode, I had talked about my frustration a little bit with Eagle Moss because I hadn't gotten my kit number 7. So coincidentally, I ended up getting kit number 7 the same day as I got kit number 8. So I was able to have a nice long Saturday afternoon putting those 8 different packages together. So, the enterprise really starting to come together. Obviously, I'm about a quarter of the way through now because I've got about 30 of the kits done. And, we're really starting to see the top of the saucer section come together, and we're really starting to see that Star Drive Cobra neck. I'm really starting to get some of the pieces on the outside of that Cobra neck together. So within the next few months, that Cobra neck will be pretty much complete, and I'll be almost done with the top of the saucer section. So I'm really excited about that. Like I said, so I was able to do kits 7 and 8, which was packs 23 through 30. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is my Captain Picard XO6 finally arrived. I'm sure I'm going to get some heat from people on social media here, but I'm a little frustrated with it. The quality is very, very nice. But I was very, very disappointed with the packaging that it came in. And as a result, because it was coming all the way from China, my outside of my box did get damaged. And, I know a lot of people are thinking that, well, aren't you going to take it out of the box? I wasn't necessarily going to take it out of the box yet. And it's frustrating for me as a collector, somebody who spent a lot of money on a, top of the line, high quality product, that I'm not given that choice, of being able to display it in the box or out of the box because of what I feel was careless shipping methods on their part. I mean, it was literally in a box that was surrounded by just a very thin bag, which to me is unacceptable. But hopefully yours will come in better shape, because I know you're still waiting for yours at this time. But
at this point, I'm just hoping that mine comes in.
Yeah.
It is September 29th, and mine has been sitting in China since, I believe, August 26th.
Yep.
So any more time, and I am going to have to send an email and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
I do understand it's a long trip from China to here by mailing means, but still, that's a little while for the product that we paid for and the shipping costs that we paid for as well.
Yeah. And I mean, even still, I still haven't even seen shipment confirmation on my data, which once again, I did buy that through another, through a secondary, one of their distributors, but that's a little frustrating too, as well. So, but we'll see. The product is very nice though. I will say that the quality, but at this point, I'm kind of frustrated with it, and I haven't even taken it out of the box yet or done anything with it. So, I'm curious to see how yours is when yours comes in, and I figure I'll go from there. But like I said, it's just for something that is so highly collectible. I don't like
disappointing.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I just feel like that was a misstep on their part. But
well, and us, one of the things that we talk about on the show all the time is that not everybody, when they're buying figures, buys them to take out of the package. How often are we talking about Playmates figures on card?
Yep.
There's a reason we're talking about that, because at the time it was because people thought they'd be worth more if they were kept that way. But I think now it's more of just like, not necessarily a status thing, but it's how you collect it. And so, yeah, when those things come in damaged, it's upsetting, and I look no further than the Funkos that I can see on your shelf next to you, where you buy the box protector for them.
Yep.
And people do that. And that's why those things are made, so that people can preserve the original packaging for those products. And from what I saw in the pictures that you sent me too, I mean, it seems like they created a box with the intent of people displaying that as well, with the window, the clear window on the front showing what the contents are. So yeah, I can see where that would be pretty disappointing for you and anyone else that is a, display the whole thing, box and all collector.
Well, I think the difference with this one as well is the fact that, it's got so many interchangeable parts. Like, I think that if it came with just, one item for him to hold or whatever, I might be more inclined to say, yeah, I'm going to display just the figure. But the fact is he's got interchangeable hands, he's got tricores, he's got phasers, and there's a lot of like extra little things. It's like, to me, I don't know how I'm going to really display that where it's going to look good to me, personally, which is why it was kind of more appealing to me to display in the box with the flap open so that you could see it, through the window. To me, that was like a better option for the limited space that I have left, but
well, and take it from someone who displays figures, the ones that have the multiple pieces like that, it is extremely hard to figure out how you want to display that.
Yep. And I just, like I said, it's disappointing. It's disappointing, but I'll get over it hopefully at some point here. But there's actually two other things that I forgot to mention. I did get a shipment from Eagle Moss of the regular starships, which this is another bizarre thing because I hadn't gotten a shipment in like 3 years. I almost thought that my subscription was paused. I thought I had paused it, but I guess I never did. They just had all sorts of issues with their shipping. And so, miraculously 2 ships showed up. I got the Maquis Raider and the Jem'Hadar Fighter. So issues 28 and 29. And I also got one of the Voyager plaques that, came in with the premium subscription. So those were kind of cool. But once again, I actually did call to suspend it. Just like I said, I really want to focus on my Enterprise D build right now and, make sure that I have the Quatlus needed to complete that. I would not want to do that halfway for sure.
Well, and the space too.
Yeah. So that's all I got.
And just as a disclaimer too, Jamie and I have discussed that if my box comes in unmarred, we will be trading figures since I don't plan on box displaying. So for everyone out there who is crying in their coffee for Jamie, don't worry about it. If a box comes in unmarred, he will be getting it.
I can almost guarantee you no one's crying in their coffee for me.
I'd like to take a moment to talk about Fansets, the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network and the Divine Treasury.
5 years isn't a long time for a company to be in business, but since their beginning, Fansets has been making their mark by providing us with top-notch merchandise. It's not just Star Trek that they offer, though. Fansets provides offerings from many different fandoms, including Scooby-Doo, DC Comics, Batman 66, Harry Potter, Zenscope, and Rick and Morty.
But since Star Trek is the sweet spot of the Divine Treasury, we'll talk about their close to 400 licensed pins that they've put out in that 5-year period. Things from Delta badges to micro crew to anniversary sets. All of them are ripe for the taking at fansets.com. You can look forward to them releasing new pins on the 1st and the 15th of each month, which Jamie and I religiously mark our calendars by. Their latest release featured the micro crew pins of Guinan and Vic Fontaine, Admiral Vance from season 3 of Discovery, as well as the end of season 3 Captain Michael Burnham. It also featured the latest Women of Trek, Lieutenant Savick, and the magnetic version of the Deep Space Nine Voyager Delta.
And as a listener to the show, you can receive 10% off your next order from Fansets by using the code DIVINE. That's DIVINE at checkout. And remember that when you when you make a purchase of $30 or more, you also receive free shipping in the US.
Fansets. Our pins have character. And we thank Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of the Divine Treasury and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. So I made contact with our next guest while we were in one of many lines at the 55-year mission. And even though all three of us were actually there in person, our communication was over Twitter. And that's when I learned that she has a prized Spock helmet in her collection.
I do.
And it was just a matter of time before Jamie and I both said, yes, anyone with Spock helmets need to be on the show. So Lisa Herrera, welcome to the Divine Treasury.
Thanks for having me.
And I just want to clarify this, that it wasn't a long discussion. It was probably about 30 seconds when we said we got to get her on.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of the Spock helmet. So I just want to clarify that.
But there is much, much more that I've seen in her collection. And as Jamie and I can attest, we're seeing just a fraction of it right now behind her in her picture. So let's get started, and we'll ask the only question on the ballot that has nothing to do with Star Trek, and see if there's anything outside of the franchise that you collect.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. I was born a collector, honest to God. It's some of my earliest memories is picking up things and collecting them. I can remember being like 4 years old and finding like really shiny marbles or, just little tiny things and picking them up and having a little box of keepsakes. So yeah, I'm a collector. The other big thing that I collect, although I have to say, a few months ago, I actually said, I'm done with this collection. I'm stopping this collection. I'm not doing this one anymore. Playmobil. I have like 20 years of Playmobil. And then what happened?
And then they released the Enterprise.
Yeah, and I lost my mind. So I didn't pre-order it from Entertainment Earth, but because I've got 2 toy stores on alert. One of them has, both of them have sort of, they know as soon as one of them gets it, one of them is earmarked for me. So I'm quite excited for that. But I have 20 years of Playmobil. I have 40 plus years of Star Trek, but I've got 20 years of Playmobil.
It's funny because like that's kind of how I'm feeling with all these new figurines that are coming out right now. It's like my childhood was so wrapped around getting the Playmates figurines and all that other stuff. It's like I'm seeing all that, like, because I know some of the newer ones. What is it? The Super Sevens, Mike? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, the Super Sevens are now up for pre-order now, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do this again, But I feel the same way. I said, knowing how big that Playmobil was, you must have went ballistic with that thing.
Oh, I went ballistic. And, I started thinking, like, what if they make a little City on the Edge of Forever? And I can, like, have my Star Trek Playmobil visiting my other Playmobil. Anyway, I have to stop doing that.
Well, and anything with Star Trek stuff, too, it's like they always test the market with one thing. And then... And then all of a sudden it's never the only thing that comes out, for sure.
But see, you can classify being able to buy those because it's for your Star Trek collection.
Yeah.
There's always a loophole in all of this.
Yeah, there is that little money thing though, right? I mean, it is there at some point there does need to kind of be a limit. Not that I have been able to do that yet. But I do recognize that there comes a point where, yeah, that, you know, there does have to be a limit. It's not going to happen with the Playmobil, let me tell you.
Yeah, we were
all of that. I'm going to have all of that.
Yeah, we were Jamie and I were actually texting today. That's why he brought up the Super Sevens from Reaction. And I said, you know, I'm a little, you know, it kind of stinks that they're, or I said something around, I can't believe they're $18.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he said, and he goes, you mean in a good way or in a bad way? I said, well, you know, in an old man bad way, because I remember $4.99 for the Galoob ones back in 1988. So now thinking $18 is like, it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like those Playmates, they were $4.99 back in the day, or $5 or whatever, but like they're still $5 if you try to find them somewhere,
Right.
you know, on eBay or wherever you're looking. So the $18 is a little yeah, I was like, oh. And the problem with me too, Lisa, it is I have to like I have to have everything in the set. Like it's killing.
You're a completionist.
It's so bad. And
Yeah.
it's like even like the X06s, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, with the X06 figurines, but like I ordered a Picard and I ordered a Data because I'm like, okay, well, I got to do the next gen at least. And it's like, it's killing me to like not order the Kate Mulgrew one. It's killing me because it's
is this the QMX you're talking about?
No, this is
No.
the X06, the museum grade.
So
It's
yeah,
the museum grade. Okay.
yeah. So this is a new company that just came out earlier this year. They've only got one figure that's literally on the market and out to people now, and that's Data from First Contact.
Okay.
They did a pre-order of Picard from First Contact, and that's now being shipped out to people.
Okay.
They did a pre-order of Janeway, and the pre-order sold out in 20 minutes.
Yeah, the first wave.
And then today they announced that they're going to be doing a Discovery line.
Oh, and what's the price point on those?
180, 189.
Yeah.
So that's not too okay. So how much are the QMX in America?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It depends on who.
Okay.
In some cases, because we haven't had any real production on those lately out here.
No.
So like I've gone to conventions and I'll be able to pick some up for $6-7, and other ones I'm paying 50 or 60 because of who it is, how old it is, that kind of thing. So
but Lisa, you got to check out the X06s because like you will never see a figurine that looks better than these do. I'm sure Mike would agree with me on this.
Yeah.
I mean, literally it's like, so the Data one, which I haven't gotten my Data yet because I ended up missing the pre-order. So I'm getting it from one of those other box store,
third parties,
companies. But like literally there's like multiple types of hands, like he can
which is what QMX did. Yep.
Yeah. He can hold the phasers, tricorders. They even got like, you could put another head on it where he had his, like the skin grafted onto his face.
Okay.
I mean, but it's just the quality is just, it looks real. It looks so incredible.
So they actually got the Bob Blackman uniform specs and bought all of the exact material.
Oh wow.
And just made it in 1/6 form.
You're kidding. Wow.
Yeah, it's wild. Cool. It's so wild. And like I said, you see the pictures, it looks like you would think it's like the person, on a photo and like photoshopped in, or what it looks that incredible. But yeah, definitely something to check out. But like I feel that way about the X06s, where it's like the price point is so high that I'm like, it's killing me not to like try to complete it, but it's like I can't do it with how many they got coming out. It's just
can't
and
be
all
done.
in succession too, not just like
one right after
6 months later. 6 months later, no, it's like, all right, everyone's getting their Picards. Let's do the pre-order on the Janeway, and
I have to say, I don't. I shouldn't say that because I'm looking around at my room and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm probably lying right now. I don't collect as much newer stuff. Like my focus is mostly older stuff. But then every so often something comes along that is new, that is just like, well, I need to have one of those. And then, like you said, like I'm a completionist as well, but not like I'm not driven
like
to complete. Yeah. But like I started getting the QMX guys and
Yep.
you know, and I you know, if they put out more of those, I have to have them. Now they never got the Sulu out to Canada. We never got it. Yeah, I have it on, you know, on order at my store, but they never shipped it out there. So I'm missing a Sulu in the collection that they have put out so far. I got the Con that came out, but you know, and I'm waiting for a Nahura. You know, but anyway, they never did ship the Sulu. So I don't get so much new stuff, but then every once in a while something comes along and it's like, yeah, I gotta have that.
Yeah.
Well, when we interviewed them, and I know just before we started recording, you said that Shatner's your guy.
He's my guy.
When we interviewed X06, they did tell us that they're going to be producing a captain's collection.
Oh no.
And I believe they're not going to do Kirk in his gold uniform. It's going to be in the green wraparound.
In the green one, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what they had said. So when there's a new set of something, I'm okay to stop at the three main guys. I can do Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and then go, okay, I'm good, and I can walk away. If the price point is really high or they're really hard to get or whatever, I'm okay to like just get my three main guys and walk away. And if I can't get the three main guys, I'm good to just get Kirk. But if I get a McCoy, then it's like, oh, okay, now I got to get Kirk and Spock. So you sound a little bit like me.
see, like now
they're being kind to me, and they'll be like, "Oh, Lisa, I got you a present," and I'm like, "Oh, it's a McCoy."
Yeah.
See, Mike's funny because he's like that with either like enterprises or captain's chairs.
Uh-huh.
Or captains in general.
Yeah. If something's got a captain's chair, oh, you better believe that I'm like texting him, busting his chops, like going, "Oh, you got to get this now," because everybody's always teasing me because I'm like, you know, I'm a nut when it comes to some of the things in my collection. So I'm always looking for those things that have the captain's chair, which X06 are supposedly going to have captain's chairs with these figures. So I know he's like really dreading how this is how this is going to turn out. But so we've already kind of started talking. We might as well ask the next question since we're already kind of like delved into it. So tell us about some of the things. Actually, the first thing I want to do is, why don't you tell our listeners what you're wearing right now and who you're trying to imitate?
Who I'm trying to imitate? Well, yeah. I'm wearing Strange New Worlds. It's actually the #1 gold outfit. I actually wanted it as the captain's outfit with the stripes, with the other stripes on it, but the place I was getting it from wouldn't make it in captains. They were like, it doesn't come that way, and I was like, yes, it does, but they wouldn't do it. They only had a male costume in the captains. And they had the female costume in the #1. So that's what I'm wearing, because for Star Trek Day, I often would wear my gold original series dress. I would normally wear that. Anytime I'm going to see William Shatner, I definitely wear that one. But today I figured I would change it up a little bit, and they're supposed to do Strange New Worlds on Star Trek Day, so I thought, well, I'm really excited for Strange New Worlds, so I thought I'd wear that uniform.
Oh yeah, we are as well. Love and I tell you, I know you were just talking about the big three a couple minutes ago. I can't wait to see this big three really start going to town for sure.
Oh yeah.
I think they got tremendous chemistry. So
Absolutely.
super
And I just
excited.
adore Anson Mount. I just can't wait to see him.
Oh yeah,
More of him.
He's great, and he's great with the fans too. Like all his interactions on Twitter, and we have a very good friend of ours, Patrick Escudero, who's a good friend of our show, and he was doing a birthday Zoom for his nephew, and Anson Mount came right on his Zoom.
Wow.
Literally.
Really?
Yeah. Literally. He sent him an email. I don't know if he sent him a message, I'm doing this Zoom with my nephew for his birthday, and Anson Mount just showed up.
Wow.
Yeah. Literally just showed up and, hung out with them for, I don't know, whatever, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever it was.
Wow.
But I mean, that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like
that's super cool.
That's stuff, I know Mike's got a great story too, that I'm sure he'll tell you later. But yeah,
we actually told it when we were waiting for you.
Oh, okay. All right. But
I have to say, when I was watching season 2 of Discovery, and he did, his big scene, which obviously I won't say, spoilers, but it was one of those moments where I literally stood up off the couch and just went, yes.
Me too.
I was beside myself with it. I was crying. I was cheering. It was just like, I was so thrilled. Even though it was the moment that it was, I was still so thrilled for what I was seeing, and the little speech that he did. So from that moment on, I was one of those people on Twitter going, can we please get a Captain Pike series? Can we please have a Captain Pike series?
Yeah. And it's amazing too, how he's really resonated with the fans, as far as there are people who were diehard Captain Picard fans, or diehard Captain Kirk fans for 50 years. And then all of a sudden they watch season 2 of Discovery, and now Anson Mount in one season had displaced people that they were fans of for 50 years or 40 or 30 years or whatever it was. It's just, okay,
let's just clarify here. Yep. He hasn't displaced Captain Kirk for me. Nobody displaces my Captain Kirk. So just clarifying that.
Yeah.
Okay. No. So let me ask, if you jumped off the couch for that moment, I'm going to take you back to the end of season 1 when the Enterprise came on screen. I was excited. However, the next thing that happened when the credits rolled, I yelled, no, because I didn't want the season to end on that note. I wanted to know what was going on.
Yeah. That was a little bit of agony there to get that tease. And also not to know, at that point, we didn't know how much that was going to figure in the next season. That might have just been a little like, hey, fly by, and then that might have been it. And we might never have seen it again, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a moment of jubilation, and then like, oh no. What if that was it, right?
Yep,
but also, there's always the, they show it, and then it's kind of like, well, how are they going to do it? I watch all of the Star Trek series, all of them, and I'm excited for all the new stuff. I don't love everything equally, but I watch it all and I enjoy all of it. So, I was prepared. However they did it, I knew there was going to be something in it that I was going to, that was going to resonate with me, that I was going to enjoy. But still, there's ways to do things, and then there's ways to do things. And, they can do things where you're jumping off the couch and hollering, and then they can do things where you're like, oh, that's interesting. Yep. And I was hoping that it would not be the latter, right? I was hoping that I would be able to be excited by it, and I am. I'm so excited by it.
Yeah. No, I share your excitement for sure. So, Lisa, why don't you talk about some of the things that you have in your Star Trek collection, since we've already kind of touched on a little bit here. And I know you got a wonderful plethora of things behind you as well.
Yeah. So the major stuff that I collect is stuff from the 60s and 70s. And I have to say that I probably started out mostly with toys, because I was a kid when I started collecting. So, I started collecting like the Mego stuff. I was, let's see, I was born in 68. So, the 70s stuff, I started collecting it probably more like late 70s, early 80s is when I started sort of getting my hands on some things. Those were kind of the first things that I got, like my first Captain Kirk Mego doll. Got one back there. I actually have multiple Captain Kirk Mego dolls. I always have, if there's a Captain Kirk, I got to have the Captain Kirk. So yeah. So that was kind of the major thing. And then of course, along with that, there were books, lots of books from the 70s. And then recently I've gotten more into, I would say in the last few years, I've gotten more into, well, I found more and been able to get more of the sort of documentation stuff around the 1960s stuff. Anything that I could get my hands on from the actual 60s, like any of the press releases or any of the, anything like that that's sort of authentic to the actual 60s. One of the first things that I got that I found was super, super cool was there was a set of photographs that was taken by a fan that was of Leonard Nimoy when it was after the first season. They were just renewing for the second season, and he was going down to, I forget the name of the place, but he was going down to someplace to do an appearance, and he did a little. He came in on one day, did a little side stop at like a card store or a bookstore or something like that, and did some signing for fans, and then went on to his main engagement was at a dinner. Like a Legion or something like that. But this fan, or there were two fans actually, so this was like 1967, they were in cosplay, which I just loved that. I loved that 1967, the show had been on the air 1 year. They hadn't even finished showing the whole first season yet. They just renewed for the second season, and they were in cosplay. And so they went to the airport. Obviously, there's no such thing as security back then, because they walked right through, and they were on the tarmac with him coming off the stairs, off the plane, taking pictures. They followed him from the airport to his gig at the bookstore, taking pictures all the while. Followed him to his hotel, took pictures of themselves standing outside the sign that said, welcome Spock or whatever. In the cosplay, and that's how I could see the cosplay. Went back the next day when he was leaving the hotel, followed him from the hotel to his actual gig, and they were there, so they must have had tickets. They were there, and then followed him back to the airport and got a picture with him in their cosplay. And actually a newspaper had taken a picture of them meeting him, and they got him to sign that, because it was probably the day before they'd gotten the picture, and then it came out in the newspaper and they got him to sign that. And to me, that was because it was 1967. These were, fans right at the very beginning. And they were so enthusiastic that they were in cosplay in 1967. Obviously, they'd made these, uniforms themselves. And and followed him around, and I mean, obviously that would be stalking, but it was the number of pictures. I mean, they were up close and personal with him, and got pictures with him and everything. So those kinds of things I really love. And then I've recently been able to get. I ended up with a couple of different lots from eBay of a fan who, as I've been discovering, wrote for a number of the early fanzines. And I actually have letters from Bijo Trimble to her, because she was writing to Bijo and getting advice from Bijo. Bijo was counseling her about talking to her parents about her love for Mr. Spock and all this kind of stuff. It was pretty interesting kind of stuff. And actually at Star Trek Las Vegas, I don't know if you saw, but Bijo and John Trimble made a surprise appearance by Zoom. So I was able to ask Fagio, I said, how does it feel to be a collectible? Because I mean, I'm collecting her signature, her letters that she wrote, and they had a good laugh over that, right? But
now, were you actually at the 50th when they were there? Because they were at the 50th,
I was.
weren't they? Yeah.
Yep, I was there at the 50th, and they got a plaque. I think Creation gave them a plaque to thank them for their work with Star Trek.
Yeah, it's really too bad, like when you look back on, they really started a lot of, besides, all the things they did to get Star Trek back on the air, that aside, I mean, they really helped start the collecting business in general with Lincoln Enterprises. And, I don't think they get enough credit for really pioneering, that fan experience of the collectibles
for taking money out of our wallets.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, and so one of these fan things that I got was from the Gene Roddenberry Appreciation Society. Gene Roddenberry Appreciation Society. A group of fans decided that they needed to appreciate Gene Roddenberry, so they decided they were going to throw a surprise party for him at Baycon, which was happening. I believe it was 1968 that it was. They were going to do a surprise party for him. And so the fan took pictures at the surprise party that Gene Roddenberry appeared at, and it was written up in a bunch of different fanzines. But she also just took pictures around the convention. And one of the things that she took, which I just love this picture, she took this picture of people had put up handmade signs. And one of the signs that got put up was, what did it say? It said, what do Star Trek fans do? And it said, we collect things. And this was like 1968, right? And I was like, see? I come by it honestly, right? I mean, back then.
Yeah. It's collecting has been going on in the Star Trek franchise virtually since the beginning.
Yes.
Which is really cool. So that, we've delved into just a couple pieces from your collection. So what is it that actually got you into collecting Star Trek stuff? You talked about, I'm guessing obviously the original series was the jumping off point for you. So was it something within the show that you said, I want something like that, or was it just love in general for the franchise?
Well, okay, so love in general, it's just a given, honestly. Like, there are so many episodes of the original Star Trek that they just resonate so much with things that I believe in or things that I feel, or they represent ideas that I think are good and true, to be honest. So that's just a given, and I wanted more of that. I wanted to be associated with that. And then, of course, watching Star Trek in syndication back before VCRs, back before you could control the content that you saw, you were at the mercy of whenever the networks were playing it. So where I was mostly growing up, they would play it over the summer at like 7 o'clock at night. They would start running it at a certain time, and then they would run it through until they ran out the 79 episodes. Although they always missed. There were certain episodes that got missed or that maybe didn't get played as much, because every so often, years later, I'd be watching and I haven't seen this episode. There'd be some episode that had been missed in the rotation, but that was the only way to get Star Trek. I remember walking into a bookstore and getting the photo novels. Do you remember photo novels? Where they took all those pictures from the actual episodes and they put, the captions like a graphic novel, right?
I had a few of them when I was a kid.
I've got the set, obviously. and I remember, picking up one of those, and it was just that chance to have that content again in a different format, but to be able to enjoy it and to have it, I could put it aside and I could read it, and then I could pick it up again when I wanted it. I wasn't at the mercy of the networks. If you were watching Star Trek like I was in the 70s, and something really cool happened, you had to memorize it or, try to remember it, because you didn't know when you were going to be able to see it, the next time. So I think a lot of my collecting, first of all, I do have the collecting bug, but I think a lot of what I was trying to do was just capture all of those wonderful feelings that I had when I was watching it, and in a way that I could do that whenever I wanted and didn't have to wait for the network to put it on.
So now you big into the physical media, so the VHS tapes, the DVDs, the Blu-rays, into that stuff too, or?
Yeah, I always have whatever the latest is. So they're putting out the first 4 movies in 4K. I have them in Blu-ray. I have them in DVD. I did let go of my VHS. Although I sometimes think, why did I do that? But anyway, I did. I let go of the VHS. I had the whole original series in VHS.
Oh, wow.
So did you have, hold on, did you have it like the Columbia House in the gray cases, or do you have the single episode? Which ones did you have?
So in the VHS, I mostly taped it. I did have some, that I bought, but I mostly taped it, and I had, them all lined up, and so I mostly taped the on VHS, which is probably, I guess, why I got rid of it, because it wasn't the Columbia's House version.
Yeah.
When they started coming out on DVD, do you remember they came out in? I think it was 2 episodes on one DVD. So oh my God, that was so hard to get that entire collection, but I did. I got every single one of those DVDs. And then, of course, they came out with them collected onto, more stories on one DVD. So I let go of my collection of the large collection with, 2 on each DVD to a good friend who I knew would take care of it. Because I just couldn't have 2 sets of DVDs hanging around. Although I have a set of DVDs hanging around, and I also have them in whatever that 50th anniversary version that came out was. I don't remember.
The big box. Yeah, that was all box. Blu-ray. Yep.
Yes, all the Blu-rays. So I have them on the Blu-ray, and I do have a 4K player. So I'm like, yeah, if you're putting out the movies in 4K, then I will have them.
Yeah, I had that Columbia House collection, and the cool thing about the Columbia House one, so obviously it was 2 episodes per tape. I think one of them, I forget which episode it was. I think it was like the end of season 2, Assignment Earth. I think like there were 3 episodes on that tape, but they put it in Stardate order.
Oh, okay.
Which was really cool. So it was basically like production order, but in Stardate order, which I thought was a kind of like a cool little, so obviously the end of the season would be all the unknown star dates would fall at the end. But it was just an interesting way that they did that, which I always thought was cool.
I do have one 8mm reel of bloopers that I can't watch because I don't have an 8mm, projector. So I'm trying to figure out, I know that I could probably take it to someplace for somebody to transfer it, but I'm terrified of them doing that because I don't know how brittle it is. I don't know, whether it would be destroyed. So I've got this reel that says Star Trek bloopers that I can't watch.
Which may have been under the arm of Gene Roddenberry going back and forth to conventions. It may have,
right? It may have. So, yeah. One day I'll have to figure out how I can watch it.
So the VHS movies that you had, was it the pack that built the Enterprise across it?
Yes, and I still have that one.
You still have that one, okay.
Well, no, I shouldn't say I still have. I had let that one go. And then somebody was selling it locally, and it had the pin in it. Do you remember there was the, I think it was the 25th anniversary pin or something? And I was like, I want that pin because I don't have that pin set. There were 3 pins, right? And they were selling the whole pack of the, I think maybe it was 5 movies. I don't think it was all 6 of the movies in there.
Right. It was 5 initially.
Yeah, 5. And the pin set. And they were selling it for like $15, and I wanted the pin. So I bought it, and I have thought to myself, well, maybe I'll just keep the pin. But this is the problem for me for collecting, is sometimes I get things that I think, oh, I'll just get that part and I'll discard the rest. Or, I think I'll get this and I'll use it, like the Post-it notes or something. I'll get the notepad paper and I'll use that, and then I buy it and I'm like, I can't write on that. So the pen is sitting there in the set with a little, certificate, and it fits nicely into the set, just fits right in there. And I was like, well, I can't break that up. I only wanted the pin. Now I've got VHS.
I think we've all been there and done that.
Yeah.
Now let's take some time to talk about our friends at Science Division. They have made the world's first interactive tribble that you can control with your smartphone.
You know, we talk about Science Division during every episode because, as you know, they've put in the time and the attention to detail that you would expect for this fantastic product, right down to the tribble fur. And speaking of tribble fur, Science Division treated us all to a surprise on Star Trek Day with their release of the new silver furred tribbles. Now, it also seems that some of those tribbles must have got into the Quinto Triticale that most likely spilled in Science Division headquarters, because they ended up with 300 giant tribbles to be put out on Star Trek Day. Now, these are available for a limited time, so make sure that you adopt one today.
Well, that last read was a mouthful. But when you download the K7 app, you can also name your tribble, assign it to a ship, and even put it into different modes, such as at ease, on duty, and watchdog. If you have a co-host trying to take your collectibles, you can even have it attack them at the push of a button. But we all know in the end that
tribbles are not dangerous.
And as an exclusive for our listeners, you can receive $5 off your very own regular size tribble when you use the code Cyrano. That's Cyrano at checkout.
Science Division. Trouble's never been this fun. And we thank our friends at Science Division for sponsoring this week's show. The next question that we're going to ask you, Lisa, is there something specific that you really focus your collection on now? Like, what is where are you narrowed in searching for right now in your collection?
Yeah. And again, it's the 1960s documentation stuff. So like there are other things that I still want in my collection. You know, like I still want for whatever reason, I don't have the 1991 Enterprise with the top that comes off and the little bridge on the inside. The Franklin Mint, I think, that made that one. So I don't have that for some reason. I mean, I tried to get it. I actually bought it off of eBay and it came broken. Ooh, that was very upsetting. Anyway, I still want that. But I focus mostly on trying to get stuff that's from the 1960s or early 1970s that is documentation, that is either from the show itself or based around the show. So like fanzines, letters from fans, anything to do that's sort of clustered around the show, because it's difficult to get the actual stuff from the show, right? But there's fan stuff that comes up that can be, I wouldn't say affordable, because nothing is really affordable, but can be something that I can actually get. So that's kind of where I focus more now. I don't know. I think it's really because of the pandemic that I've been home and working from home, which means eBay is always right there, which is a terrible, terrible thing.
Bad thing.
So, I have an alert for vintage Star Trek, and it pops up, and then I'm like, there are things I look at and I go, yeah, that's neat. I would have it, but if it gets to be too much, I can't get it. And then there are some things where it's just like, yeah, no, I'm going to be owning that. Yeah.
See, go ahead, Jamie.
No, I was going to say, and I know Mike usually asks his next questions usually about how do you put your collection together. So where do you go to get some of these documents? I mean, I know you mentioned eBay, but I mean, I'm sure there's probably a little hesitation sometimes with whether it's authentic and things like that. So where do you go to acquire some of your pieces that you have?
I do research when I'm finding stuff on eBay. Like if I find something, I will, message the seller and ask him where he got it, ask for names, ask for places, that kind of thing. I also try to cross-reference it. That's a big thing that I try to do, is I try to cross-reference it from somewhere. Like I remember last year, I lucked into a bunch of, so June Westmore worked on The Next Generation as a makeup artist. And she, I don't know what her state is, but a bunch of her stuff got into the hands of someone who was selling it. And he wasn't advertising it. He wasn't advertising it in a big way in terms of like, this is June Westmore. She used to work on TNG. He just said, you know, from a crew member. But I could see on the pieces, some of them were written to June. Like, so they were Polaroids. I love Polaroids because you don't duplicate Polaroids, right? Like you can take a negative and you can make a new picture from an old negative, but Polaroids, you're not duplicating. So I love the Polaroids. So there was a bunch of Polaroids and I could see that some of them were to June. So I asked the guy, you know, who, I can't remember what I did. First I went and I actually looked for who was June in The Next Generation. I knew she was a crew person. I knew she was in makeup. So I went on to IMDb and I looked and I found June Westmore. So I started looking at, you know, which episodes, which she was on dozens of episodes. But I could match up, you know, this is what you do, right? I matched up the pictures that I was seeing with episodes that she has a credit on. And so then I went to him and I was like, can you tell me more about these pictures? Who is June? I didn't tell him that I had been researching and I just said, who is June? And he said, June is June Westmore. She was blah, blah, blah. He was saying it like it was nothing, right? And I was like, aha. So this is the June. This is the June that I have been finding. So for me, that then became, okay, if something is written to June, you know, on these Polaroids or whatever, then it's going to be authentic. It's going to be from her. So she took her, you know, pictures of stars while they were getting their makeup done or whatever, and they were Polaroids. So she got some of the people to sign them. I have a lovely one that I expected a bunch of people to be bidding on, and I think I was either the only bidder or I was one of only a couple bidders, which was her hugging Patrick Stewart that he has signed with a lovely message, you know, to June, something, something, something. I forget what he said, but a lovely message to her, you know, signed Patrick Stewart. And again, that one came separately from the other lot. So maybe people, because, you know, I don't necessarily want to have an autograph that's written to somebody else. So maybe people didn't know who June was. And he had not, you know, said clearly in the auction who June was, but I'd already done all my own research. So I was like, well, I know who that June is. And I even got from him some letters from the studio congratulating her on her Emmy. I was like, that's cool.
That's really cool.
I like to put things together, you know, like I like to have, if I get something behind the scenes and I can get some other documentation that kind of cross references it and shows that it's authentic, right? Mm-hmm. That's the kind of stuff that I really love, you know, finding like, I got these stamps from a guy. See these things? These are like, you know, those rubber stamps they made in the 70s, right? Mm-hmm. And they're so specific.
Keep on trekking there.
Keep on trekking. Yep. Bring back Star Trek. You know, they're really quite neat, and they're obviously made in the 70s. And so I thought, you know, I love that kind of stuff. Like it's just so unique. So I, you know, messaged the guy where these come from. He told me that this was a fan who he said was something like somehow she was involved in the early fandom, and he thought that she was somehow connected to Gene Roddenberry. So then I go on a mission, right? Because I have her name. Now I start looking for her, trying to find her. Couldn't find find reference to her. And then one day I'm flipping through letters to Star Trek by Susan Sackett. And I'm just, you know, looking through it because I have a copy of it. I'm looking through it. Bang, there was her name in there. She turned out she was part of the original welcome committee, the original, it was a group. It was a fan group that they kept fans connected to each other, and they kept track of all the different fan groups that were out there, and they connected people to different fan groups and things like that. And she had her specific role was that she was helping to gather all the information from teachers who were writing to them, teachers across the country who were writing to them saying that they had used Star Trek in their lessons. They had referenced, I mean, obviously this was pre-VHS, so they weren't showing anything. They had referenced, specific episodes, maybe specific bits of dialogue or scenarios, right? That they were then using to teach particular things. And her job was collecting all that information, what the teachers had made, like if they'd made lessons, if they were willing to share, handouts and things like that, and then connecting teachers. So if a teacher wrote to Welcome Committee and said, I would like to use Star Trek in my class, she could say, well, so-and-so, in, I don't know, Missouri is using this. Why don't you write to her? And I don't know if you see all those old publications, they put addresses right in those publications. They were giving out people's addresses all over the place, right? So that's what she would do. And that to me was just a beautiful thing, because I knew the name of this fan. I have this beautiful, quirky little, thing. Why did she make all these stamps? Well, obviously, when she was writing letters to the fans, she was, putting stamps on it. And there her name was in Susan Sackett's book. Just heaven. I love that. That's just my favorite thing.
That's really cool, especially considering all the work that, you would normally do behind the scenes, Google searches, all of that. And there it was in that book. That's really neat. It's really neat. So I see tons and tons of stuff behind you. And you've talked about eBay as a source for some of your collectible stuff. So you mentioned having to buy a lot on eBay to get to, be able to fill some spots in collections. Do you ever get yourself in the trap of having to buy a whole lot only for one item that's in it, and some of the other stuff that's in it you already have in your collection?
Certainly, I have done that. I've certainly bought lots where I get duplicates. In fact, right now, I'm kind of ashamed to say, but I've been trying to cull some of that stuff out of my collection, and I have this giant pile of boxes of stuff that is duplicates or things that I just no longer want in my collection that I need to sell. I need to pass them on to another fan. And it takes time to do all that on eBay, right? Like it takes time to take pictures and write descriptions and all that kind of stuff. So I just haven't gotten around to it, but I need to, because I need to make some space. Yeah, I certainly have done that. I also have had the luck of, I recently had one where I'm looking at a lot and I'm looking at the picture that's in the lot, and then I get the actual lot. Oh my, I love those lots. I mean, don't you? I love those lots of miscellaneous things. So I was getting one from the UK, an old 1960s, 1970s fan lot. And I'm going through this lot. I already seen some pictures that, from the auction, but they hadn't nearly gone through the whole thing. And I'm going through this fan scrapbook. They made a scrapbook in like 1969, 1970. And this fan had gotten Sugar Smack cereal. Do you guys know Sugar Smack cereal? Sugar Smack cereal in the 1969, 70s put out Star Trek boxes. I didn't know about them. Like every so often something is there that I just don't know about. I had gotten from a fan one of the prizes in the cereal. So Letraset, those they're like tattoos, like temporary tattoos, but they're for paper.
Okay.
Right? You put them down, then you rub them, and then they peel them off. Letraset. So he had gotten Letraset out of Sugar Smack cereal in the 1970s, and he kept them all this time, and then decided to part with them. I don't know why, but he decided to part with them. So I got them and discovered Sugar Smacks. I had no idea that there was, Star Trek on cereal boxes in the 1970s. So So that was, one of the holy grails, right? It's like one of those things that I don't know if there's many of those boxes in existence anymore. There was one on eBay for a while. It recently sold for about $1,200. One of the original boxes, right? Because I'd been watching it for a long time. I wasn't going to buy it, but I, wanted to see if it eventually went, right?
I hope it still didn't contain cereal.
I don't think so. I think it was an empty box. Anyway, so I recently got this fan collection. I'm going through this fan scrapbook, and she had cut out from her local, I think it was TV and Radio Times, magazine. She cut out every time that Star Trek was going to be on the air. She cut out the little description and she put it in a scrapbook. But I don't know how old she was when she was making this scrapbook, but she'd also taken things like she had a model and she took the cover of the model or the pieces of the box and cut them out and put them in the thing. So I'm going through this and like, wow, this is like from the they got Star Trek later than the States did, right? So 1969, early 1970, I'm going through like, wow, look at all this stuff. And then she had Sugar Smacks and she cut out the Sugar Smacks boxes. There were games on the back. She cut them out and she put them in. There were masks. There's a Kirk mask and a Spock mask. She cut them out and she put them in. She cut out only one. I wish she'd cut out more, but she cut out only one of the front and put that in her. I just lost my mind because it's not an intact box. Wouldn't it? I think I would be dead right now if it was an intact box, but it was the pieces of the box. There it was. And she also had the letter set. She had some of the letter sets. So then now I have extra. I actually have some to sell. But again, so those kinds of things, getting a lot. I love getting the lots. I don't usually buy a whole lot for one item. Although I have to say, had I known the Sugar Smack stuff was in there, I would have bought that lot just for that stuff. 100%. I would have done it.
That's so cool. So that brings us to our awards section of the show. So we always go through and discuss what some of the award pieces from your collection are. So the first one is our Kivas Fagio Award, and that would be the top collectible that you wish was in your collection and you either just haven't been able to get your hands on it or you just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet.
I don't know, Mike. It might be a Sugar Smacks box at this point.
I know, it sounds that way.
No, you know what it is? I wish I had the original series chair replica. I wish I had that. There are people who make them. And there was a guy.
Helm chairs or captain's chair?
The captain's chair. The captain's chair. There was a guy on eBay who he'd made one. They're big, right? And he was selling it. I think he wanted $5,000 for it. And to be honest, if he was down in California, if I could have figured a way, because of course he wasn't going to ship it, this big giant thing, you had to pick it up. If I could have figured a way to get down there and drive it across the border, trying to imagine them stopping me at the border. So, you bringing back anything from the United States? Yes, I'm bringing back a chair.
Hey, you could just say, I'm bringing it back from space. I just brought this back from space.
Yeah.
And what is the value of that chair? Well, sir, to me, it is priceless.
Yeah. But if you want to know wood, probably not that much.
This guy, he had it was all working. He had buttons that were working. And some people who make these replicas, oh my God, the work, the love they put into them. I would love. I don't know where I'd put it, to be honest. I don't. It's a big footprint, those chairs. Mm-hmm. But I wish I had a chair. I guess I wish I also had a room big enough to display all my stuff. Yeah. That the chair could be a centerpiece too. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say you work from home now, so
I know.
That's your office chair.
Your office chair.
It's kind of a justification. Yeah.
Yeah. I've often thought about making one myself. Because you can go online and you can get the prints for
yes. Yes. Not only that, you can go onto YouTube, because I've done this, and
Mhm.
there's a guy who will walk you through he assembles one, and he'll walk you through all of the little nuances of putting together one of these chairs.
Yeah, Adam Savage from Mythbusters actually has a video out there of him building it himself.
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of.
But again, like, I have a single room.
Yeah.
Where am I going to put it?
Yeah. That is something that I would really love to have in my collection. Barring that, I have not been able to buy props. Like those often come up, the official props auctions, or they come up on eBay, and or set pieces like costumes and things like that. But stuff that's authentic from the show, those always go for way more than I can afford. If I could afford it, I would start having a collection of some of those things. Just some key pieces of things. I would love to have some of that in my collection.
Wow. So just make sure when you get that captain's chair that you don't fire that emergency escape pod with Finney in there from court martial. All right.
Imagine,
So
I'd have red alert going the whole time, right? What's going on? I want a pizza. Red alert.
All right. So our next award is the Grand Nagis Award. So this would be the most valuable item. So from a monetary standpoint in your collection.
Yeah. That's a funny question when I saw that question that you guys asked, because some of my collectibles, I don't know I've never had them valued, right? So I don't know how much they might or might not be worth. Like, I don't know if you can see above me there that 1960s era Enterprise lamp.
I saw that and I was like, that looks like it's a lamp of the Enterprise.
It is. And it's one of those, again, like, collector's holy grail kind of things. I don't know how true it is, but certainly from everything that I've read, they made about 500 of these. They made them in the 60s, and they don't show up all that often. And I managed to get somebody who would ship one to me, because one of them came up on eBay where they wouldn't sell it to Canada, but this one came up, and I was able to get it. So how much is that worth? I don't know. Maybe it's worth nothing. I don't know. Those, collectibles are worth what people are willing to pay for them.
Right.
The most expensive thing that I have is probably like that I can definitely put a monetary value on is in 2016, the Canadian Mint was making coins to commemorate Star Trek. I mean, the Canada Post was making stamps, and the Canadian Mint was making coins. So I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2017 now, but because they actually made Star Trek stuff in both years. In both of those years, they made a coin that's worth $1,500. One of them is a coin in the shape of the Enterprise, and the other one is a coin in the shape of the Delta badge. The Delta badge is gold. The Enterprise is silver. Those are $1,500 each, and I have those. So those are probably the highest monetary value that it's confirmed, because they're coins. They're actual, if I were to take them and buy something with them, I think they're worth $200. Imagine.
But that's really
Enterprise
cool.
coin.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'd like to buy that that sheet over there. Yeah. You have change for an Enterprise?
Yeah. That's really cool, though, that they actually minted it in the shape of the Delta and of the Enterprise.
Yeah.
That is a really cool thing there.
Those are buried so deep in my collection.
Oh, I bet.
No way. I mean, for me to dig that out, I'd have to be lifting up boxes and opening up things. Yeah, it'd be so hard to get. Yeah.
Well, I look at some of the stuff behind you, and I would say just off the top of my head, some of that stuff would probably fetch reasonable amounts on eBay these days, especially since the pandemic and everyone seems to be into collecting again.
Yeah.
Prices have gone up.
One of the things that I love about collecting, and you probably like this too, is when you get a deal, right? When you get
we talk about that all the time.
So you can see this 1979 bridge set here, the the little Mego 3/4 inch bridge
Yep.
set figures.
From
Yeah.
motion
Okay.
picture. Yep.
Yeah. One of those ones that's really, really, really hard to get, right? My friend, who he goes to, like auction houses and thrift stores and stuff like that, calls me up from a thrift store one day, and he's like, "Do you have the Enterprise bridge from the motion picture?" And I'm like, I must not have that because that's really, really hard to get. So I said, "No. Are you looking at one?" He said, "Yeah, I'm looking at one." I said, "How much?" He said, $15. I was like, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. So he bought it. That thing is, I don't know, $500 or
Yep.
depends on, I've got the box. The box is in beautiful condition. And the bridge on the inside of it, right? It was just like, oh my God, $15.
That's awesome.
You love that kind of stuff. Well, like my Ramco helmet, which is one of my prize. I love this helmet. I love the bug eyes, and it's still, the bug eyes are still intact. Like often, if you see these, you hardly see them, and if you see them, the bug eyes are gone, right? But the bug eyes are here; they're intact. The little chin strap is still intact.
It looks brand new.
I know it's beautiful. No box, but it's beautiful. So this guy on eBay. So I have these alerts that come up. Guy on eBay is like, "This is really valuable. It's Star Trek and it's 1967, and I think the starting bid was like $50, or buy it now for $150." Oh my God! And I have to tell you, so obviously I hit buy it now, and every moment until it arrived at my door, I thought he's going to cancel it. He's going to go and do his research. He's going to look up,
yep.
And he's going to realize what he could have gotten for this, and he's going to cancel that bid because what repercussion is there to him? Nothing, right? And I'm not going to get it. So until it arrived at my door and I opened it up, and here's this beautiful yellow, Star Trek with a rocket on the side and the eyes. I love this thing. This is one of my favorite things. The only thing I wish with this thing is that I could put it on my head.
And that's the thing. We were talking about the Spock helmet before, and I've been in discussions with the guy from Star Trek Unlimited, and he's like, "I want to make them. CBS wants me to make them. I'm just not sure if anyone would buy them." I'm like, "Dude, if you made them in an adult size, not only would people buy them, but the next convention you'd be seeing people walking around wearing them."
Well, they're canon now. They're canon now, right? Because they were in Lower Decks. So I tell you, that moment, I'm watching Lower Decks, and the stuff falls out of the bins, and I saw it, and I was like, "That's my helmet!" And so we watched to the end. And then I ran it back and I did a freeze frame of it. Sure enough, there it is. There's the helmet, right? So I tweeted at Mike McMahon over that. I was like, "Thank you."
Yep.
And now it's canon.
Yeah, it's so great. So the last award. So I would assume that this probably is not going to be the hardest one. So the Resican Flute Award, the collectible that has the most sentimental value to you. So it could be worth a dime, but it means a lot to you.
Yeah. Okay. So in 2010, there was a Star Trek convention in Vancouver, here where I live, and I didn't know. How did that happen? I do not know. To this day, I do not know how I did not know that convention was happening. I obviously was not on the mail list, and obviously the people who know me thought that I already knew and didn't tell me. And by the time I found out, I was booked to go into work and I couldn't get out of it, and I missed the convention. So you can imagine. I went online and looked up creation, and because the reason that I was so upset was that William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy were doing a dual photo op in 2010, and I missed it. So I went online, looked up creation, and they were doing Las Vegas. I had never heard of the Las Vegas convention. I was vaguely aware that they had a big convention in the States, but I had never been to it. I had, young children at the time, so I wasn't spending money on, those kinds of things and going by myself to conventions. But it was one of those things that it was like, I have to go. I can't not go. I have to have a photo op with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. I have to do that. So 2010, for the first time, I went down to Las Vegas and I got William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy in a photo op. And then I went back the next year and I got them both to sign it. And that's probably my most sentimental collectible.
Yep.
And that's a Jamie collectible, a photo op that's autographed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt the same way about my Patrick Stewart. Same exact way. Wouldn't trade that thing for anything.
Yeah. And I never got Patrick Stewart. I don't know why. When I started going to the Star Trek Las Vegas conventions, I went there for William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy specifically for that photo op, but I wasn't prepared for what it was and how wonderful it was and how overwhelmed I was and how much I wanted to be there every day, 365 days a year. I wasn't prepared for all that. And it took me a long time to realize I could do photo ops with other people. Like why am I not doing that? I have the the 5 remaining original series stars. So I have George Takei and Walter Koenig. I have Nichelle Nichols, and then of course these 2. But I wasn't getting the other photo ops. So there was a while where Patrick Stewart was coming all the time, and I could have done a photo op, and I never did. I really regret that. I really hope he starts coming back because I need to have that photo op.
He is very leery of the photo ops. Like every time he comes now, it's like no photo ops, limited autographs, and I don't know. I think that's one you're never going to see again, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Oh, well. I have his autograph because he did come to Vancouver for a convention, although he wasn't doing them in person. He pre-signed a bunch of them. And so that's how we got them.
You got the Polaroid too. You got the Polaroid.
And I have that. Yeah. Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, Lisa, I want to thank you so much, obviously, for taking the time to be with us. Where can you be found online?
So I hang out on Twitter every day. That's where I'm posting bits of my collection every day. And I'm also on Instagram. Both of them, if you look for @OneTrekFan, you can find me. So basically, I post a piece of my collection every day. On Twitter, I also do like all of the Star Trek events that I go to. Like today, I will take a couple of pictures and some screenshots, and I'll be posting about that. So yeah, that's kind of where I mostly am. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Cool. Well, I have a feeling that since we barely scratched the surface of some of the stuff that you have, Jamie and I have discussed in the past that some of our guests we may have to do a part 2 with.
Oh.
So I think we may have to do a part 2 with you.
Well, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. I can, well, you probably can tell, and I'm sure you can too. I could talk about Star Trek all day.
This is what we live for over here. So with that in mind, collectors, we are also looking for you to share your collecting stories with us. So if you would like to be featured on the Divine Treasury, please reach out to us.
You can find us on Twitter @divine_treasury, on Instagram with the same handle. We're both on Facebook and can be found popping into and out of Camp Kittimer from time to time. So if you'd like to be on the show, please direct message us on one of these platforms, and please send us your pictures or videos.
And to coincide with our 20th episode, we will be trying to put together a bit of a slideshow of some of the stuff that's been sent to us from our guests as far as pictures from their collection. So if you would like to see that, subscribe to the Trek Geeks Podcast Network YouTube channel, where we will be posting that as well as any videos that we do. And as always, all of our episodes do end up on YouTube in audio form. So if that is where you would prefer to listen, you can check us out on YouTube. But as always, you never know what we might put in there. Maybe we buy something that's kind of weird and we just want to unbox it, could go up there.
Cool.
If you enjoy the Divine Treasury, you can subscribe to the podcast by downloading the Trek Geeks mobile app or by searching for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
You can also support the Divine Treasury and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network by supporting us on Patreon. Get access to unedited recordings of every episode on the network, as well as other exclusive content and so many other awesome perks.
If you'd like to become a producer on the network or get access to the raw audio for the Divine Treasury, head over to patreon.com/TrekGeeks.
The Trek Geeks Podcast Network. No one talks Trek like we do. We'd also like to thank 5 Year Mission for allowing us to use their awesome music on this show. And collectors, we're talking to you specifically. They are writing a song for every episode of the original series, and it's not parody music, but it's actually song content that's based on the show itself. So go to 5yearmission.net, put some CDs in your cart, because we all know in collecting, it's not about the downloadable content. It's about the physical media. So pick up year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4, as well as The Trouble with Tribbles and Spock's Brain. Make 5 Year Mission a part of your collection today.
On our next episode, we look forward to talking to our friend and fellow collector, Thad Haight, about the many things that he has, including some interesting things, Star Trek related, that hang out in his bathroom. But until then, this has been episode 21 of the Divine Treasury. The Divine Treasury, connecting through collecting.
Music for the Divine Treasury is provided by 5 Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. The Divine Treasury is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.